chuckling to myself, and I know it was the same thing for me when I first came up with the idea, the concept. But, that is like our faith. Our faith is sometimes comes in reverse and in areas and ways that it's not comfortable for us. If it's ever comfortable, you wouldn't be where you are today doing what you're doing if everything was easy for you. So it's through those challenges. So live life like you stole it, not sold it. It's just a reminder that life has been given to each and every one of us, and that it's a gift, and that a gift is not to be squandered, but it's to be appreciated. And everybody has their own understanding of how they can appreciate something. Some people jump 3 feet in the air when they win a prize. Some people go, well, thanks. But everyone should appreciate and knows that they have been given a gift. And it's replicated based on my life. I was an atheist until I was 29 years old, and there were a lot of life changes. And then I noticed, I woke up one day realizing that life is a choice of how we live it. And if you get the concept of life is a gift, and when you think about being the bad guy, live life. The saying was, drive it like you stole it. Every time you rent a car or you go to a hotel, you really don't treat that the same way you treat your own product. I don't know why it is, but I know when we get in a rental car, you don't take as much attention to the care and the comfort of that vehicle. It's our life too. God has given us a vehicle to go and really push it to the limits within His realm of the Scripture that He's given us. He's given us a guidebook, a roadmap of how to live life. But He's not saying just pull over on the side of the road and park there for the rest of your life, but go out there and live it fully, but keep me first. Keep me in the driver's seat. You're in the passenger seat, and you can go wherever you want.
Mm-hmm. It sounds simple, right?
It sounds simple, but it's not. It's some background. Where did I get this from? Well, I married my high school sweetheart, my first girlfriend, together 27 years, have 4 wonderful children, have traveled twice around the world. And I realized every time I challenged myself, which turned out later to be an easy opportunity for God to provide for me in my life and the people around me, realized that the limitations that we have in our lives, every day we live our life with struggle and anxiety. And if you just stop, and you were talking about this as you started the show, and just reflect, listen, and analyze what you're thinking and what you're doing, you'll realize that I would say just about every obstacle or challenge in front of us are self-imposed. Why can't we do this? Well, we're not doing it for a reason. Most things are prohibitive because of our thinking, our beliefs, and not specifically not our faith, because our faith is boundless as we grow and have an understanding. Doesn't mean we can't ourselves. We can't do anything, but with the Lord in our life, those doors are much wider than we could ever imagine. So this whole platform of live life like you stole it, not sold it, is a platform to remind yourself, take some time out and ask yourself, are you getting what you want out of life? Are you happy? Are you living vibrantly? Are you excited about getting up in the morning because of the gift that's been given? If not, then you have a decision to make. It's up to you. Do you want something different? If you want something different, you've got to do something different. And everybody has gifts and talents. And ultimately, we feel most alive when we're sharing those, such as yourself. You have a gift of communication, of bringing people together and bringing ideas to the forefront where people can maybe expand their own understanding of things. So rather than me keep talking, ask me a couple questions, Tony, because I love to interact with you.
Okay, very good. So A lot of times I look at things like, well, how hard could it be? Just do it, right? I mean, in your subtitle says from ordinary to extraordinary. And a lot of times in our world, especially today's world, things are fast and loud and getting faster and louder. And we want to stay up with the times. We want to be right in there. And we fight ourselves to recognize, especially us men, Raymond. I think we're supposed to think that our title announces who we are. Describes how successful we are and the amount of money that we have. And I'm in my late 50s, and one of the things that I've realized is none of that has nothing to do with anything. That's just maybe the subtitle to your title. So when you're talking to people about from ordinary to extraordinary, or to live life like you stole it, and basically you didn't sell out on the real deal. When you talk to people like that, I'm sure that there's people that look at you like you have a third eye. But do the men in the group recognize what you're trying to tell them? Because I think your message is really, really important for men, because men are supposed to be the leaders, and that has nothing to do with being in charge. But, when you talk to men, do you see that light bulb go on, or do you see it just a dim light?
It's a challenge. It's, as a man, a father of 3 girls and a son, you look at the image of television and what a man was like and what a man is now. You pretty much have to brush that aside and just go to Scripture. The man in my life is Jesus, the model, and it's very hard for us to get our head around that. And none of us think we're extraordinary for some reason, and that's humility or whatever in our life, that we don't walk around and say, I'm extraordinary, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Yet we carry these titles that associate us with these great or extraordinary things. The book that we wrote, Live Life Like You Stole It, Not Sold It, was just highlighting average people like you and I, that when you look back, it's like when Steve Jobs gave his convocation speech at Stanford, and he said, you don't recognize what is happening around you and going forward. Stop, look back, and look over your life, and if you see progress, you see growth. And Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, said, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. And that's the challenge. Are you growing? And you never know if you're growing if you're looking forward. Every now and then you have to reflect and say, okay, yesterday I was here. Today I am in this spot. And this is closer to where I want to be. So the challenge for a man is he feeling, this is the challenge I have for myself. Do I feel alive? Do I feel in a good, healthy, close relationship with the Lord? And we are judged all day long, but the worst judge of all is ourselves. We're the most critical. We beat ourselves up more than anybody will ever beat ourselves up. So if you're going to go to battle and beat yourself up, make sure you know what you're battling and not just societal perceptions.
So I want to make sure that people, go to Live Life Like You Stole It, .com, and click on Raymond's name, and then it says portfolio in the drop down, and then books. And I want you to go down there, and I'm telling people this because I want them to see who you, or where you've been, I should say, you've done a lot of things. I mean, lived in a car, lived on a bench, professional actor and a model, studied in China, you worked as a pastor, you have a degree in theology. I mean, it keeps going and going. So it surely does show that you and I have something in common. Now, I might be describing it differently when I describe myself, but I always like to think I'm strong-minded. My wife kind of thinks I'm stubborn. but I'm going to get there no matter what it takes. I'm not going to quit. And sometimes it causes me pain, but at the end of it, what it does show me is what you said. A lot of times until we get down the path and look back, we don't realize how blessed we've been, because we're in that little puddle that we stand in that we whine with. But the fact of the matter is you've done a lot of things, okay? And so do you just mostly do keynote speaking now? What is your everyday activity?
Well, I describe myself as an author, entrepreneur, trainer, and a pastor in no particular order. I'm an A-type personality. I wake up, 4:45 every morning, and I start my day. And some days I feel like I live 5 or 6 different lives. So from ministry, I don't, in terms of, we got to pay the bills. So I'm an entrepreneur. I run several businesses. I have a real estate company. But for other parts, life is the same. Don't put limits on your life. Keep balance for sure. Keep balance with your relationship. So my day-to-day activity is there is no rhythm to it other than I live fully. If something better comes up, I do it. But one thing I did narrow this down, so I just want to share this with you because this is all over the board. It's really hard to follow. But I would say step 1, figure out what your purpose and your passion is. And if you don't know if you can't answer that in one sentence, then you've got some work to do. If you know what your purpose and passion is, and no one else can define that for you but you, and for example, I'll give you my purpose and my passion. My purpose is to honor and worship God. It's a one sentence, it's easy, but it's very wide-based, so that's wide open. The second step, so once you've determined why you're here and what you're doing, then you can go and do it, and that is determine what makes you happy, because God says, I've given you life to live and to live it abundantly. So what does that mean? Well, you pretty much can get your napkin out and pen and start writing down what makes you feel alive, what gets you energized. So that's how I live my day, is those things on my list. I've got 5 or 6 things that make me feel fully and alive and charged, while at the same time meeting my purpose. So, for example, my purpose is to honor and worship God. On my list of things that make me happy and energize me is I like to be productive, I like to be creative, I like to encourage. So this program that we're on right now allows me hopefully to encourage others, and therefore I'm also meeting my purpose of honoring and worshiping God, because encouraging others honors God, because it's not about me, it's about Him.
Right. I totally agree, and I'm a big fan that you should never look down on someone unless you're raising a hand to them to get them up the ladder with you. It is all about serving, and, there's that piece in the Bible that says you reap what you sow, and I really think in big, bold parentheses it should say good or bad, because I think a lot of us just think we reap what we sow, but the bad goes with it. So it's important to focus on, what I ask people to do is see if you could help one person out today, and just decide, or at the end of the day, how that went and what you got out of it. Just keep track of it, and don't focus on, we of course have to make money to pay the bills, and so that's our routine. But if you can stop and help one person every day, whether it's $1 for the person standing on the corner, or it's a ride, or it's just a smile and a wave, or an encouraging word, if you could do that, you would be surprised if you write it down how it reflects back on your own life. So you have a degree in theology and you're a pastor at a church, but I always tell people you don't have to be that smart about God. You just have to be willing to read about God to understand that sharing your journey is what God really wants you to do, and by helping others, people can see your journey, and the rest of it just happens. So, unfortunately, we're up against the clock, Raymond, and what I'd like to do is, first of all, I want to tell people to go to Live Life Like You Stole It and get the book, Okay, I also want you to connect with Raymond. You can subscribe to the mailing list, and the reason why is, especially